But you have to always judge it in the context. People want to talk about concentration camps and this and that. Every country had camps. The United States had camps. We had them here. We had them there. We had them in Germany. We had them in the United States. Russia had camps. Germany had camps. You want to talk about killing civilians? How about the bombing of Dresden? How about the firebombing of Tokyo? How about the atomic bomb? People like to pick and choose. They like to say, well, and obviously the elephant in the room is the Holocaust. And, to the extent that what they say about it is true, that it was a systemic extermination, that gas chambers were involved, that would be uniquely evil if that occurred. But what about the gulags? That wasn't evil. What about the of China by Japan? That wasn't evil. What about the nuclear bomb? What about all these other things? And it's not to minimize the plight of one people, but it is to say, hey, look around. There's bombs dropping everywhere, people being incinerated and thrown into camps everywhere. And so we just have to have a morality that is not completely like, well, one person was the devil incarnate and the boogeyman, and everybody else was fine. Winston Churchill and Stalin and the good guys won. Everything else was fine. I don't think it's that simple.
I wonder how they teach it in Germany if you're a student over there.
Oh, well, they teach it like it's worse than here.
Oh, really? Oh, so they shame them over there too?
Oh, yeah. It's illegal to say anything positive about Hitler or to have a swastika, anything like that. It's like a police state. It's the basis of their citizenship. It's in their constitution. You can't be a citizen of Germany if you don't support Israel.
Really? I did not know that. Holy crap. So they banned the swastika over there.
Oh, yeah. They basically reconstituted their entire country out of shame over the Holocaust to say, because Germany did the Holocaust, now the state of Germany is dedicated. The raison d'etre, the reason that they exist is to support Israel and the continuation of the people.
Holy crap.
So it's like you get thrown in jail if you deny the Holocaust, make fun of the Holocaust, throw up a Hail Hitler. If you do anything like that, you get put in jail. It's like more illegal there than anywhere else.
Damn. Is that when you started getting shadow banned and banned when you started talking about the Holocaust?
Even earlier, I started to get blacklisted just talking about foreign aid to Israel. This all goes back to World War II. There's a World War II, post-World War II order. That's where all these intelligence agencies came from. And, you could say maybe there was this period between, let's say, 48 and 63 when this was being contested. And Dwight Eisenhower said, beware the military-industrial complex. And JFK tried to make reform at the CIA. And the government wasn't absolutely pro-Israel. And so you could see there was maybe a time when there was a battle happening for American sovereignty. But let's say that battle ended sometime around the mid-60s. If I were to pinpoint it, I would say that's when we really lost control over the country.
Now these intelligence agencies have so much power. Now they're working with universities. Harvard's getting exposed right now. I'm sure you've seen that.
Right.
That stuff's crazy.
Well, in the case of Harvard, I actually am in support of Harvard.
Really?
I am.
I got to hear this.
Well, let's be honest. The reason they're coming after Harvard is because that was the hotspot for all these anti-Israel protests in 2023. That's where all this started. Nobody had a problem with Harvard in the first term. Nobody had a problem with Harvard up until October 7th. What happened after October 7th is a bunch of these Students for Justice in Palestine, one of these pro-Palestine groups, they put out an open letter, and they said that October 7th was basically, and this is them, not me, because I don't think October 7th was justified, but this is what a bunch of left-wing students published. They said that October 7th was effectively justified because this was the long-awaited comeuppance for the Israelis who were treating Gaza like a concentration camp. So they said that Israel was to blame for October 7th. This is very controversial. Now, Bill Ackman, who is a billionaire hedge fund manager, and he's tight with the guy that runs BlackRock, Larry Fink, who's also a Zionist, pro-Israel. BlackRock is the biggest asset manager in the world, trillions of dollars under management. And Bill Ackman is a close friend of his. He's on Wall Street as well with a major hedge fund. Bill Ackman's an alumni of Harvard. Bill Ackman's a lifelong Democrat donor, lifelong liberal. After that letter went out, and there were some pro-Palestine protests on the Harvard campus, Bill Ackman marshaled all of his resources to destroy Harvard. He hired a nonprofit to send these billboard trucks, digital billboard trucks, to the houses of the protesters with their faces on the billboard truck and their names saying, you're an anti-Semite, you're a Nazi, you hate Israel. They paid, it was through a conservative nonprofit, to have these billboard trucks circle the campus at Harvard, go to the houses of the protesters. Bill Ackman said that he sent a list of the names of the protesters to Larry Fink to get those people blacklisted from Wall Street so they couldn't have jobs. Bill Ackman went to the alumni network and said, we are going to stop giving Harvard any money. He's a billionaire. The very rich alumni said, we're not giving Harvard any money because they're anti-Semitic, because they supported these protests, because they won't crack down on the Palestinians. They had their allies in Congress, like Elise Stefanik, who's super Zionist in the pocket of Israel. They had their allies like her and others call a congressional subcommittee to interrogate the presidents of Columbia, University of Pennsylvania, and Harvard, because that's where they had all these protests. And they had these big, huge televised hearings where they said, you're an anti-Semite. If you allow the students to say from the river to the sea, that's a call for genocide. You're tolerating that. And there was this sustained high-pressure campaign from media, from the nonprofit world, from Congress, from the finance world, from the alumni network, to go after the faculty at Harvard. And when all was said and done, the president of University of Pennsylvania fired, president of Columbia fired, president of Harvard fired. In almost every case, they were replaced by allies of the state of Israel. At the University of Pennsylvania, the chairman of the board resigned, was replaced by the chair of the North American Federation. That's replaced the chair of UPenn. At Harvard, they replaced Claudine Gay with a doctor named Alan Garber, who said, we're against DEI, but we're also very against anti-Semitism and all the rest of it. So the way that I see it playing out right now in the Trump administration is this is an evolution of those tactics from 2023 and 2024. And by the way, this isn't a conspiracy theory either. The Heritage Foundation is one of the biggest, most influential conservative nonprofits. Yeah. Everybody in politics, right-wing politics, knows Heritage. Socially conservative, fiscally conservative. They promulgated a project last year called Project Esther. Project Esther is like name. It's called Project Esther. You can look it up. It's on their website. It's not a conspiracy theory. Project Esther says they are going to get a Republican government in power. They're going to wait for a Republican to become the president, for Republicans to control the House and the Senate. Once they do, there will be a public-private partnership, meaning government with the private sector, to label anybody that has protested Israel, anybody that supported Palestine, any campus groups, activists. We're going to label all of them as terrorists. We're going to say they're a Hamas support network. That's the acronym they came up with, an HSN. If you're pro-Palestine, if you're an activist protesting, writing essays, you're on the campus, you're a Hamas support network. Hamas are terrorists. You're a terrorist. They said, and once we get our favorable Republican government, we're going to use immigration law, national security laws like terrorist laws. We're going to use education laws, basically everything that's on the books to go after these people, deport them, surveil them, put them in prison, financially sanction them, ostracize them, and this is a quote, ostracize them from society, basically expel them, cancel them from social life. Now that President Trump is in office with a Republican majority in the House and the Senate, with Zionists at HHS, at the Department of Education, at DHS, at the State Department, Zionists in the White House, they're executing that project to a letter. The New York Times did a report. They said the Trump administration is implementing 50% of the policies prescribed in Project Esther. Yeah. So when Trump goes after Harvard and UPenn and Brown and Columbia and Cornell and Yale and says, we're coming after your endowments, your loans and federal grants, we're coming after tax-exempt status, we're coming after your international students, this is a war on the elite schools, the highly selective schools, the Ivy Leagues, so that they will stop the pro-Palestine protests, and so that they will implement a pro-Israel curriculum in their Middle East Studies department.
Wow.
And there's two purposes for this. It's pretty transparent. One, If the United States is giving Israel billions of dollars to annihilate the civilian population, if the United States is maybe going to war with Iran, where would you expect to see a popular or grassroots protest against that stuff? College campuses. So when you shut down the college campuses, you're clearing the way for the United States to support these wars without any opposition. Billions of dollars in missiles and maybe a ground war, regime change war in Iran. And all the protests have been silenced preemptively. That's number one. Number two, Harvard, UPenn, Columbia, all these elite schools. The students that graduate from those schools go on to work for the top law firms, the top hedge funds. They work on Wall Street in the Foreign Service and the State Department. If the Middle East Studies departments at these schools are teaching that Israel is genociding Palestine, guess who's running the State Department in a generation? People that aren't very sympathetic to Israel. Same thing with Wall Street. Same thing with every other elite institution. I mean, these schools are elite-making institutions. So they want to make sure the curriculum is pro-Israel so that the elites are pro-Israel, so that every generation of students that goes into the highest levels of society, they see it exactly one way. So Trump's war on the universities, I don't support this at all. I think it's an attack on civil society. And I think it's very clearly motivated by trying to pave the way for, once again, this foreign influence. I think it's evil.
Damn, they're playing chess out here. I did not know all that was going on behind the scenes.
And they count on that because they portray it like, oh, this is based. They say, this is the latest narrative. Trump bans the international students. That's meant to bankrupt Harvard. That's the goal, because international students pay full boat. They pay 60 to 80 grand per year. Harvard has, it's 20% of their student body. That's a lot of money. So if Trump takes their international students, that's like, this is deal making. You don't want to take our pro-Israel curriculum? Well, we'll bankrupt you. Now you have to take the curriculum. But the way it's being portrayed by conservatives is, oh, this is great because now Americans can go to Harvard. Okay, but that's not the intention. And I think when all is said and done, the international students will come back to Harvard. You know, Trump said we want more international students. We want them to stay. We want to give them green cards. So the international students they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
This is just using them as a bludgeon against Harvard. And they're getting conservatives to support it intentionally by branding it as some kind of based, pro-worker, anti-immigration policy, when really that's not what it is.
Wherever you guys are watching this show, I would truly appreciate it if you follow or subscribe. It helps a lot with the algorithm. It helps us get bigger and better guests, and it helps us grow the team. Truly means a lot. Thank you guys for supporting, and here's the episode.